Hey. Hello, everybody. This is Sri from myworkbelt.com. MyWorkBelt is a software designed and developed and helping small business service-oriented companies. And I have a guest today, Lisa, and Lisa is the owner of LPM Enterprises. She is a designated consultant and project management expert in constructions and trades industries and located in Canada. And Lisa has over 8,000 hours of boots on the ground and great deal of experience in working on construction projects and helping different trades businesses on a consulting level. And she was a COO of a medium-sized companies. With that, she gained a lot of business experience, and along with the construction experience, and in addition to having a certifications and experience in law and order in Canada, she is now able to help all the small businesses in Canada that are in service and construction industry. Lisa, welcome to the podcast, and thank you very much coming on board today with us.
Oh, thanks, Sri. I appreciate you having me.
Yes, if you don't mind, share a couple of pointers as to introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. So my name is Lisa McGrath. I'm the owner of LPM Enterprises. I'm a construction consultant advocacy firm. So basically what I do is I stand on the side of the owners or stakeholders that are doing large to medium construction projects, and I assist them in all aspects and facets of that project. So whether it's doing the construction vendor applications, the contracts, overseeing the project, being the go-between for the communication hub for their project, for the team's project manager. So they'll have, the companies will have their own project manager. I'm the stakeholders. So I'm basically like an owner's representative.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Appreciate sharing your experience here. So if I jump into picking your brain and taking your knowledge to the audience with us, right? So when you are working with these construction business owners, and what is the prime challenge that you see that owners can take an improvement on? If you can take one, communication.
Communication to their clients.
So communication to the clients, or communication to the clients and internal team members as well, I would take.
Both.
Right?
Yeah, you're accurate. I didn't want to cut you off, but I was going to correct my statement. But yes, internally.
No, that's great. That's great. Thank you very much. So when you say communication, what do you mean by that? Is it just simply related to the project or behavior, or what do you mean by that?
Depending on the type of trade I'm utilizing. So every company kind of goes to the beat of its own drum and how it's kind of set up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are companies I run into where their attitude can kind of suck, but for the most part, most companies come on and they are great. They have a can-do attitude. They're capable. They're smart. They've got a good portfolio. They've been vetted by me. So I look into their insurances. The problem is that what happens is if you're not talking to the right people, so if you're talking to the owner versus the scheduler versus the estimator, and this is where a lot of people, they're like, oh, I'm going to talk to the owner. The owner doesn't run the company. The owner steers the ship. They don't run the engine. Right. So you got to talk to the right people to make sure that the communication lines don't close, because the owner will go, yeah, no problem. And then all of a sudden I'm talking to somebody who doesn't know they're supposed to be on site right now, or that they didn't get the message that they were supposed to bring certain things to site. And that's my fault because, I didn't speak to that person directly. So whenever I'm on a site, like that, I would say that would be my fault. I don't make that mistake because I talk to everybody I'm supposed to, but that's what I do. So that's a big thing, is that the internal workings, not everyone's talking. So you've got people that are pulled in so many directions that they forget to tell the right people what they require. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is talking to the customers. A lot of times, the boys and girls that come in, so the men and women that come in to do the trade work, a lot of times don't want to get caught up in what they need to say. So a lot of times their companies are saying, you say nothing. You are there to do a job. Do not talk to them about how things are supposed to go. So that makes it complicated. So that's where I will come in and I will go over with the worker, communicate to the owner. If they're asking you a question and how you're doing it, tell them what you're doing. That's okay. I'm like, I'm not upset about that. If they ask you, can you do this? Can you do that? You need to go ask Lisa.
Right.
Because then I will come in and I will explain to them, if you're asking the workers to add more work or subtract more work, here are the complications with that. There's going to be a cost. There could be a structural problem. There could be that the job won't be done to the way they're requiring it to. So
Right.
that's where I tell them, whenever they're asking you to do above and beyond or under or whatever, that's when that's a no, sorry, talk to your project
So
manager.
essentially communication in simple words, it's not just simply one-way street. It is both ways, and it's not like one level communication. All levels of the organization can communicate with the customer. Yeah. And wherever it is valid, of course, right?
Of course. Yeah.
Now, in addition to running the operations, running the business, a small business owner that you help, right? What do you suggest to them that they need to pay attention in order for them to be able to make money at the end of the day?
So if I'm helping the side of the trades and not the stakeholders in projects, which I do, then I help them on the safety side and I help them on the HR side. And those both have big communication components. So I tell them that the first thing they need to do is make sure that they have very clear and concise documents, that they're making sure they're all of their staff understand what their expectation is.
Right.
And also that the staff is letting them know what they're capable of doing, and not, because what happens is a lot of these trades will end up with people who pad their resumes. Oh, I can do this, I can do that, but no, they've never really done it. And so that turns into a problem. So it's always double checking and vetting your people that are coming aboard too, because the one thing I look at when I go into a company is what is your turnover rate?
Yeah, certainly. If an employee makes a mistake and that becomes a major liability to the small business owner, and which becomes pretty expensive for them to afford, and instead do a small little bit of a work on researching and vetting and checking the background of the person that you're hiring, will avoid a big ticket mistakes in the future. Right.
Well, yeah, in Canada, under HR policies and under the labor standards, if you misrepresent yourself on a resume and you say that you can do things that you cannot, that's a fireable offense. So, and the labor board's not going to stand beside you if you lied.
Right. I mean, which is generally true for most of the places. But great. Thank you. So in case of your business customers, right, your small business owners, so what is the sequence that they go through? Can you share that sequence that they are using in their own operations, so that the rest of the audience can pick on some of the tips from that?
I'm going to need you to elaborate. What do you mean? Because I only focus on HR and on safety. So are you asking like...
So if we take the HR, right? So a hiring is a sequence process. It's not like, okay, you post it, got the resume, and you hired them, right? That's not just simply 3 steps. So what are the steps involved in hiring somebody? As a small business owner, what they need to be paying attention to?
The first and foremost, it doesn't matter how large your company is, you should always be doing letters of offer and put your expectations to be clear and concise of what your expectations are of that person, what their compensation will be, and anything that the company will be covering. Everything needs to be in black and white. Because once both parties sign that is an agreement and a contract. So if one comes back and it comes out in the wash that someone didn't uphold their end of that, then that contract can be broken, and then those 2 people can separate ways. There also should be a parting of ways, which is huge. If people don't have a parting of ways clause inside of their contracts, it makes it a lot more complicated, because then they have to follow based on what the labor law says, and then they can walk into common law if the employee wants to do that. So instead of just being like, oh, well, labor standard states that I only need to pay you a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it may be, they can go out and seek legal counsel, and legal counsel will say, well, common law says 3 months. And now the employer's like, whoa, right? So I think there's a lot of ownership on both parties. So there's times where I will help out an employee when they're dealing with an employer that's not being very fair. And then I will help out the employer when the employees are taking advantage. It's a two-way street. HR is very much a two-way street. You can't just side on one way or another. Everybody has to be everybody has to have the understanding of what everyone expects in that moment.
Right.
You expect me to do this. I expect you to pay me. You expect me to be here from this time to this time. You know, I expect you not to lie. I expect you to do your job, right? It's pretty simple.
Right. No, likewise, the same. I take that the same expectation need to be properly documented and agreed when you are dealing with the customer as well as a
100%.
business owner. Am I right? So
Amen.
the small business owners, not only they are setting the proper expectations with the customer on a project that they are committing to, also they have to be setting up the same expectations properly and document them when they are bringing somebody on board to work on their tasks. So now, when these small business owners generally don't have understanding of documenting these expectations, documenting these contracts, and some of them are a bit of a shy and concerned. So in that kind of a situations, what would you suggest to the small business owner they should do?
They should always seek out their local labor laws of what there is, because that's how you can basically create your own policies. Whatever you coincide those policies based on what what your labor standards are in your area, recognize. Right? That could be a problem or could be a misunderstanding or what they're seeing. I also, so in like the next month and a half, I'm launching on my website where people can go and pick and choose policies a la carte or an entire booklet of policies for HR. Now they are designed for Canada and Alberta, but we've been told that we are the Canadian state. So, I mean, I think Texas won't have any problems. We're pretty similar to Texas, but it's always something to consider when you're buying something from another country to make sure. Now, I do know that Canada also has the same, if not more stringent policies in safety outside of OSHA. So I have looked at the OSHA policies. A lot of them coincide with our OH&S out here, but we are a little bit more stringent.
I see. So irrespective of where the business owners and audience are here in this podcast, they can look at the local policies and they need to be able to understand what the policies and local laws and draft those policies and at least discuss with the team members on the local laws and local policies when they are bringing new people on board, and make sure their expectations are properly documented and that both parties are agreed to those expectations.
Yep, they can also go seek out a HR representative, because there's lots of them that will be in like a consultant for human resources. There's actually a lot of them in all areas. So that's actually not a bad thing either, to bring in a professional in your local area and say, hey, this is what I'm kind of looking for. Make sure that you aren't feeling taken advantage of and that everything makes sense to you, because a lot of times when people are consultants, they think that they can slap a huge fee on you because they're a consultant. I don't, but everyone always says to me, Lisa, you could charge more. And I'm like, yes, I could, but you know, like I want the right people to be able to afford me. I don't want to be too out of reach. So.
No, I mean, it all perspectives and market conditions, right? So generally, business owners are not avoiding to pay anybody. As long as they understand the value and they wanted to pay for that service that they are going to get the value from. And emphasizing the value from the HR perspective to them is going to help the small business owners here. Okay, there is something called HR that I need to pay attention to, and in order to avoid having troubles in the future. Thank you very much for giving answers to my questions and sharing your knowledge. And I am so glad that you are on the show and appreciate it. And before we depart, if you have one tip to a small business owner, whether they're in US, Canada, it doesn't matter, what would you suggest to them to pay attention?
I would tell the small business owners to A, network, B, be honest with yourself on what you want to charge for your rates, and C, make sure you have all of your documentation in place, all of your insurances, everything. Don't try and do this under the wing for a bit, because that's when things happen and go sour and then it turns into a big problem. So make sure you're doing everything above board and have all of those documents and policies and people in place to help you get to where the next levels.
Speaking of which, matter of fact, thank you very much. And most of the small business owners that I interfaced with are having the documentations all over the place in shelves and file cabinets, and they will never be able to access those. And hence is the reason we actually created a feature in My Workbell that all the documentation, they can scan it and upload it to the cloud. And when they need it and where they need it, they'll be able to access those documentation. Now, we are all for helping small businesses to be more effective and efficient, and most importantly, have some time, peaceful time to spend with their family rather 24/7 working on their business. Our objectives are the same, and certainly thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with our audience. I greatly appreciate it, and you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Sri.